Hi, this is Margaret Byrd, and welcome to Color Quest, and welcome to Puebla, Mexico. I am studying here on an artist residency and loving the time that I get to spend in the studio. Now, Mexico is known as a region for anil, otherwise known as indigo. So I thought it would be fun, since I'm going to be here for a few weeks, to create an indigo vat. But I'd like to do it in a way I've never done it before, and that is using henna. So join me in the studio here in Puebla, and let's make ourselves an indigo vat. All right, let's talk about indigo vats. Now, you've probably heard the term 1, 2, 3 vat, and that talks about the ratio to the three main ingredients. 1 being the indigo, 2 being the calcium hydroxide, or calx as it's called, which is the agent that is going to allow you to have a alkaline environment, which is required. And then the third ingredient is some kind of a reducing agent. Now here on Color Quest, I worked with a 1, 2, 3 vat, and we used fructose. That's one of the most common. Here today, I want to use henna as the reducing agent. So in a 1, 2, 3 vat, you're going to have 1 part that is indigo, 2 parts that is the calx, and 3 parts that's your reducing agent, and it says it's going to be henna. Now, I am traveling and I don't have a lot of the measuring devices that are normally used in order to make sure that you're getting the right ratio. So you're going to have to bear with me. I am going to wing it. And I'm going to try to create a 1, 2, 3 ratio by using some different methods. So as with many of my dye products that I need, I will go to Botanical Colors. And if you go to their website, they have wonderful instructions on how to use their different products. So although I have indigo from Mexico, it is in rock form, and I don't have a mortar and pestle where I am. So since I brought the already ground powdered indigo from Botanical Colors, I'm going to use that. And the gram amount is probably going to define how much I'm going to be able to make. Now, within a certain environment of liquid, the strength of your vat in terms of the color that you want is going to be determined by how much indigo you put in. So Botanical Colors has a wonderful calculation where you can decide from a light blue all the way to a dark blue how much indigo you're going to need based upon the volume of water that you're using. Now, I only have so much of the 3 materials, so we'll probably have to back out based upon that. So let's look at that. As you can see here, I have 100 grams of indigo. I have 250 grams of the calcium hydroxide, which is calx, and I have 250 grams of henna. Knowing that I'm going to have a 1, 2, 3 ratio, the henna is going to determine how much we're going to be able to use. For example, if I were to use 100 grams of indigo, I would need 200 grams of calcium hydroxide, and I would need 300 grams of henna. I don't have 300 grams. So we're going to have to reduce that down. Now, here is what I bought for my vat. and I'm guessing it may not be that heat tolerant. You're gonna wanna look for something that is heat tolerant. This is what happens when you travel, right? I'm not in my environment where I have all these kinds of controls. So I'm going to hope that this bucket can support some heat, because a indigo vat likes to be at a warmer temperature, not hot, but as I begin to mix these up to dissolve, their temperature will be a little bit hotter, and then we'll like to keep it at least a room temperature, if not a little bit warmer. So cross fingers that this trash can that I bought is going to be able to support that. So I'm going to need to have some room in order to dip, so I might end up making a slightly smaller amount. I'll go now and begin the process of doing some calculations and figuring out what's going to be the best amount for me to be able to do at least a medium blue. Okay, so I just measured how many liters of water could be held in my trash can. I was able to put about 12 liters of water into that trash can and still have a little bit of room at top, so I know that I can do some dunking with some fiber. So I'm gonna work with 12 liters. I'm going to be looking at doing 5 grams of indigo per liter of water in order to get a nice medium blue. So if I'm working with 12 liters, that means I'm going to take 12 liters times 5 grams, and that is going to give me 60 grams of indigo. Now my bag of indigo is 100, so I'm going to have to eyeball it since I don't have a scale and use approximately 60% of the bag in order to get 60 grams of indigo. Now, if I'm going to be using 60 grams of indigo, my calx has got to be 120 grams. My bag of calx is 250. So I'm going to have to use approximately half of the bag. And then my henna is also 250 grams, and I'm going to need 3 times the indigo. So that's 60 grams times 3. I'm going to need 180 grams of henna as my reducer. So I'm going to have to also wing that, and if I know that I have 250 grams in my bag, I'm going to have to calculate approximately 180 grams. You can do the math there. Again, if you've got a scale, you can weigh all of these things. I wanted to run this through with you here in Mexico because, first of all, I wanted an indigo vat to work with, but secondly, I wanted to help maybe encourage you that when you're in a situation where you don't have exactly what you need, you can still kind of piece it together. So let's go ahead and start measuring those out and dissolving them so that we can build our vat. So first thing I'm going to do is dissolve my indigo. I have about 1/2 liter of water that I have heated up to approximately 80 degrees Celsius. I did find a thermometer. So I ended up just doing this in the microwave, and yeah, it's pushing up into that realm. I think it's going to be hot enough to dissolve. And I'm going to put my 60 grams of indigo right in here and stir it around to dissolve it up. You can see I'm already getting some indigo on my face and on my hands. Remember, you don't want this, put some gloves on. So I've heated and filled up the bucket with approximately 8 liters of water around the same temperature. Hot enough so that as I add things, it's going to help with that dissolving process. It's being put into a vat, or in this instance, the garbage can, that already has water in it that's at a nice warm temperature in that sort of 80 degrees Celsius range. I'm going to go ahead now and add the indigo to the vat. And goes the indigo. And you can see there's some indigo powder in there, so I'll put some hot water in, try to rinse it out a little bit. We want to capture all of the indigo. There's some up there on the edges. One-handed, not easy. Try to get all those little bits on the edges there, as much as I can. At home, do a better job than me, but you get the idea. We want to try to get all of that indigo into the vat. There we go. Okay, next up, henna. Okay, so this was also hot water. I need to make sure that I'm getting all the lumps out so it's a nice even mixture. And I will even use a strainer to pour it into the vat so that if there are any lumps, I can catch them and then help them dissolve. It's looking pretty good. So as you can see, I have some residual in there, so I'm gonna add a little bit more hot water to this and try to get that dissolved and try to get all of that henna into the vat over there. Now, all of the ingredients are in. You'll notice in that last take, the color of the water that I put the calx in was actually already blue. And the reason for that is that I actually had too much water in my vat. So I used some of the vat water, which had the henna and the indigo in it, to dissolve my calx. So, you know, again, I'm working here without any real good measurement tools, so make and do. Now, the final step before I'm gonna let this rest is I'm going to stir it for approximately 3 minutes. And that is just going to get everything moving around and will already begin that process of the reduction. I have this awesome spoon here that actually is an indigo spoon and has been well used. So I'm gonna use that to stir for the next 3 minutes. All right, I stirred it for actually about 5 minutes. And you'll notice that there are some small bubbles that are coming up. I'm hoping that that is the being of the indigo flower, which should form if things are healthy in there. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on the top. Then I'm actually going to put a lid on it and let it sit. And I'm going to check on it after about a day. Might do a little stir, let it sit. The henna vat is supposed to get stronger if you allow it to sit for a few days. I've got plenty of time and I want to just see what's going to become of it. So check out the top. There you can see a few bubbles forming on the top. Hopefully those are the beginning of the indigo flower. So I have a nice little top. We're just gonna let that sit and I'll check on it tomorrow morning. Good night. All right, so when I checked with the spoon and I had the little bits of blue, I knew that it wasn't quite reduced in a way that was going to allow the indigo to adhere to the fiber. So I stirred it for about a minute, getting all of the ingredients that were in the bottom of the bucket and just giving it a good stir. I came back to the vat about, I would say, an hour or two later, checked with the spoon again, and there was no blue left in the spoon. It should be a nice amber color and clear, not milky, shouldn't have any bits of blue floating in it. And I was super excited that just that one stirring actually created that environment that was going to make it, I hoped, ready. I also want to make a comment about the indigo flower. I have yet to experience a really beautiful flower with any of the vats that I have made. And I think it's just a matter of the exact perfect, wonderful combination of things. As you know, I am mixing without much measuring devices, so I'm just happy that I was able to achieve that amber color. And although I don't have that flower, I have been successful in creating indigo dye. So let's see if this henna vat will give us some blue. So let's talk a moment about fiber and indigo. It does not require a mordant. So you can achieve those really beautiful, rich blues without needing to do any pre-treatment on your fiber. I am going to be dipping some of the wool that I purchased when I was in Peru because it's just such a beautiful quality, and I've really enjoyed working with it over these past weeks. So I will probably put some silk in as well just to test it out and see what color that comes out. Now, although I don't need to mordant, I do need to wet my fiber. So I'm going to go put all of my fiber into some water and let it soak for about an hour. Okay, so I just set the wool into the vat and I just tied off these other samples. So I'm just gonna dip those in. With indigo, you build by doing multiple dips. So I'm actually gonna build up the indigo as it goes down. So I'm leaving a little bit at the top so that we can see the variation and change. And not for the wool went all the way in. So I'm gonna go put this in the vat with it. So I've had this in for probably 20 minutes or so. I can move it around. It's best if it doesn't touch the bottom where the silt is. And as you can see, I'm pulling it out. It is oxidizing right away. But to hasten this, I'm actually going to be putting this directly into water. And that will make the oxidation happen more rapidly, and it also just removes any of the excess that's there. So as you can see, it already is turning blue. Now we're going to take it out and put it into the sun to finish its oxidation. So I'm gonna just take these out now and put them into the water bath here. Again, get that sort of oxidation going. Stir this a little bit, just ever so gently. And then a rest. So they have had a chance to dry. oxidize. So here's the wool, the silk, cotton, hemp, and then some, I still don't remember what this is, like a silk nylon combo. I have now shortened them so that I'm going to be putting just part of this into the dye bath. You can see that this was not an even dye. Normally you would put your hands in, you would kind of gently move the fiber around. I didn't do that, so this definitely is where this probably was folded on itself or didn't get an even dye, but I don't mind. So I'm gonna put these back in. First I need to wet them again though, because they need to go back into the vat wet. So I'll just put them in water, get them wet, and put them back into the vat. Okay, I've had now my second soak and they're hanging to dry, and I'm going to continue one more dip tomorrow. The other pieces I have shortened, so I'll wet them and then we'll put this amount into the vat. And I am going to put this piece of wool back in its entirety and see how dark we can get that one. All right, I'm super excited by the results of this Henna Indigo Vat. Now everything's dried. It's been sitting actually for almost a week. So I'm going to do the final step, and that is to give all of the fiber a vinegar bath. And the reason for that is because the pH in an indigo vat is high in alkalinity. So the very last thing you do before you wash it, which also is a great thing to do to really get out all of the indigo. It will continue to bleed for quite some time, but before that, it needs to sit in a vinegar bath. This is just water and some vinegar, and that will help bring the pH back down, hopefully to a neutral, and it'll just give that fiber a chance to get itself back into a neutral pH state. So I'm gonna do that now. Hang them up to dry, and then we'll take a look at all of them. Just a splash, not a lot, quarter cup, something like that. Mix it up, and then I'm just gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes and neutralize. All right, everything has been neutralized in vinegar, rinsed out, and hung to dry. So let's take a look at the results. Here are the samples of the different kinds of fiber that I dyed in the henna vat. Silk, some kind of strange silk nylon, henna, and cotton, as well as wool from Peru. So I did 3 dips, so you can see where the color was from the original fiber, and then 1 dip, 2 dip, and 3 dip. And you can see how that is a way to build up the color. The same here, 1, 2, and 3, and where it started. And the same with the hemp. This got double dipped, but this was the first dip, the second dip, and the third dip there. And then finally the cotton. First dip, second dip, and then third dip. It got a beautiful blue.
I did not do any gradation here. I just did 3 solid dips on the wool. Absolutely gorgeous color, love it. So there you have it, one way to make an indigo vat, and that is using henna. It has been so much fun making it and tending to it, feeding it, and sharing it with everyone here. Every single person that is staying here has done some dip dyeing, including my friend Erin, who dip dyed her hair. So check this out. I wanted to share with you something fun that we did with the indigo vat, and that is my lovely artist friend Erin, who's here on the residency with me, volunteered to put her hair into the vat, and look at how beautiful this is. It's been in for, what, a week, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. And look, we even put it up in here too. I mean, by accident, haha. But we're gonna keep dipping it. We've dipped it about 3 or 4 times. We're gonna do it 2 or 3 more times. But I'm thinking this is totally a viable way to put some blue in your hair. I hope this video has given you encouragement to build your own vat at home. It is possible. And the more you work with indigo, the easier it gets and the more magical it becomes. So, have a great week, and I can't wait to see you next Friday. So, have a great week, and I can't wait to see you next Friday.